All right, thanks everyone for being here. It's a great venue, isn't it? One of my favorite items, a disco ball, is over there. So I've been thinking, what kind of music can we play during my keynote? I understand a lot of my favorite music from the 80s has also been popular in Poland, like Italo disco and modern talking and that kind of very bad music is awesome. But anyways, so maybe we can do a little dance later today. I have this talk about management workout. Indeed, that is my third book. The previous two books are Management 3.0 and How to Change the World. And my objective with my writing is to find better ways of managing organizations. We call it agile management. Sometimes it is a phrase that I also often use, and that is because it doesn't stop at introducing Scrum or Kanban or any other software development method. No, we need to do more than just improving the way we develop software in software organizations or the way we make products in other kinds of organizations. The rest of the organization needs to change as well. Human resources, marketing, business development, etc. They all have to change in some way. And I focus on management. And based on my first book, I've done a lot of courses all over the world. I've done about 80 two-day classes, a couple of them in Poland, but also in the USA, in China, in Australia, many European countries. And what I usually do at the start of the day is I ask people for the biggest problems. What issues do you struggle with? And have them write them on sticky notes. And I collected all those sticky notes from all the participants, from all the courses, so I have a big box of about 1,500 sticky notes with all the biggest problems in the world. It's worth a lot of money, I think, by the way. If anyone wants to make a bid, you can contact me afterwards. So all these biggest problems in the world, I looked through them and I counted what were the most popular questions, and these are some of the most popular questions. Like, how can we motivate our workers? Apparently that's something that many people struggle with. Or how can we change the organization's culture? Changing the mindset of managers, or have teams take more responsibility. Get managers to trust their teams, etc., etc. Now there's one thing that is the same for all these questions. No, actually two things. One thing is they all start with the same three words, yes, obviously. But there's another thing that is the same, and that is they're all about changing other people. Can you see that? They're all questions like, how can we change them, Jurgen? Because I know what I should be doing, but they're not getting it. The team is not doing what I want. The manager is not doing what I need, etc. It's always them. How can we change them? I understand that. But I also sometimes think that maybe part of the problems that we are struggling with is because everyone is trying to manipulate everyone else. Maybe that's part of the problem that we need to solve. Maybe we should start with ourselves. Make the first steps ourselves and then see what happens. So that was the focus of my book. Instead of explaining people how to be an influencer, etc., I did that with the second book, How to Change the World. Instead of explaining people how to get followers and accept other people, have other people accept their ideas, this book, this new stuff is all about the steps that you can make yourself to contribute to better management. So I believe management is too important to leave to the managers. It is very important. Everyone is a manager somehow. Doesn't mean that manager is on your business title, business card, but everyone is managing something. I'm quite convinced of that. And I let serendipity do its job. I love the word serendipity, by the way. It's one of the few English words that has no translation in many other languages, including my own in Dutch. So spontaneous things have inspired me to the practices. I did not simply type the questions in Google, like how can I motivate employees, and then see what Google gave me as answers. No, it's more interesting to have conversations with people at conferences, as I will do today, to have dinners with people and traveling all over the world, reading almost random books, and then be inspired and making connections. That's what I did with a number of the practices that I'm going to show you. One example, the co-pilot programs, that is an idea that I picked up in Norway after a conference in Oslo. I was having dinner with some of the organizers, and one of them said, I was the co-pilot for our chief financial officer for half a year. And he was a mere software developer, I believe. But he said, for half a year, I was allowed to attend meetings, I participated in discussions, and I was able to give input from my perspective as a regular employee to the CFO. I was his co-pilot, and that was great. And at some points, I actually was able to influence some decisions that were being made. And he said it was a great way to get ideas across the organization. Other management team members also had co-pilots. Fantastic idea. I'd never heard of it before. You only come across an idea like that if you have random conversations with interesting people. I would never have found it by typing how to get ideas disseminated across an organization in the Google search engine. So let me show you my book. This is the design edition of my book. Doesn't it look awesome? Oh, I'm so proud of my book. It has beautiful design, I think. Lots of pictures, lots of illustrations. And the one who made the book is Linda. Well, I did the writing, obviously, but Linda is the designer. Linda is a creative designer, and I hired her to do the book. And Linda likes traveling. She travels all over the world, and this is Linda in India working really hard on my book, as you can see. And this is Linda working really hard in Bali. And this is Linda, I suppose this is work as well, Linda in Japan, and Linda in Thailand, and Linda in Turkey, and Linda in Iran, and basically Linda has been everywhere working really, really hard on my book. Now, after 2 years of working with Linda, I noticed that I didn't know much about her actually. It was a bit embarrassing. So I've drawn a personal map. This is a personal map, Linda in the middle, and try to remember what are her hobbies, where does she live, what is her education. And the only thing that I knew was, well, she's from Rotterdam, the Netherlands. That's where I'm from. She likes traveling. She has 2 dogs. I picked that up at some point. A husband she has, and she is vegan. That's it. I thought, that's not so much. After 2 years of working with a person, this is all I know. That is ridiculous. So I said, Linda, next time you're in Rotterdam, back from one of your many travels, we should talk. I wanna know you a bit better because you're my coworker. We are a remote team together, but we need to have a conversation. So we did. We had a dinner conversation, and I learned a bit more. I learned that actually she's not vegan, she's vegetarian. Oh, okay. Didn't know that. So slight correction there. And her husband is called Fahid. I didn't know that at the time. Her husband is from Iran. And her goal was at that point to settle down with Fahid because, well, that means importing a person from Iran into Western Europe. That is difficult, I can tell you, when you're in the Netherlands. Never find your husband in Iran. That's my tip to you, by the way. There's a lot of rules and regulations there. So okay, so I knew a bit more about Linda. That was the first 15 minutes. The other 2 hours of our dinner were all about how she met her husband in Thailand. Very detailed information. I will not bother you with that. So this part of the diagram is now completely full. I will need 3 more dinners to fill the rest, I think. I show you this practice, personal maps, because I find it is important that people in organizations realize that it is about narrowing the mental gap between people. I was at a conference 2 years ago in Barcelona, and the keynote speaker there, Jim McCarthy, said, there's always focus on co-location in agile communities. Have people together in the same room. But he said that's not the point. The point is not achieving geographical closeness. He said the point is achieving mental closeness between people. And then obviously it matters when you are together in the room, because it's easier to become friends when you're in the same room. Right? But then you should be able to spread out, because actually the trend is the opposite direction. People spread out across the world. They travel all the time. I am working across the globe and I have team members everywhere. So the advice, make your team co-located, is too simplistic. We need other practices too. So I suggest a personal map. Just a couple of weeks ago, after my workshop in San Francisco, somebody sent me a photo of personal maps that he asked his team members to make on the office walls. The office walls were all whiteboards, and he had a very nice photo of people creating big personal maps of themselves, and then they made connections with each other, like they had similar hobbies and stuff like that. And he said it was amazing. They had a lot of fun. But he said this was the US. So at the end of the day, everyone wanted to wipe out their personal maps because this was secret information. Who knows, the NSA might be watching, right? So, but he said it was a good team exercise. Personal maps. That's just one example of something that anyone can do. Anyone can start drawing a diagram about themselves or about a fellow coworker. Let me give you some quotes that I have received about my book. This is a quote by Betsy. She said, "Your English is remarkably good." This is obviously a very intelligent person, right? "You have an incredible feel for the rhythm and idiom of English, and you're doing a magnificent job. And the text is a pleasure to read." Oh, this is one of my favorite messages that I have ever received. I printed it and I have it above my bed. This is so important for me as a writer. Who cares about book sales? I mean, it's important to sell books, but it's even more important that people actually read your stuff. So Betsy had a great compliment for me. Oh, and by the way, Betsy is the only one who knows how to write the word idiom. You see that? Because usually when people email me, they misspell this word and use a T at the end, which is, of course, incorrect. Now, Carol Mace is another one who gave me a nice compliment. "Your art and ability to capture ideas is really fantastic. Scrolling through is a buffet for the brain." Well, obviously, Carol is a poet or something like that. Beautiful, beautiful quote. And here's the last example by Hamed. "My greatest thanks for your astonishing book. Every page I read makes me wish to become a manager." Oh my God, no. My book creates more managers. That was not the idea. Actually, the tagline of my book was "Better management with fewer managers." And I failed. I'm creating more managers this way. But nevertheless, the compliment is appreciated. Now, I show you these because these matter to me. They give me purpose in my work. As I said, I'm a writer. I try to write books that people like. And book sales are nice, but even more important is it that I get confirmation that the stuff has actually been useful to people. When they send me a message and they said, "Yeah, this personal map stuff, it worked at my team." That makes me so happy. That's what I write for. So these compliments, basically, they form my work exposition. The exposition about the meaning of my work. I saw a similar exposition at a restaurant where I was in San Francisco. It was a Persian restaurant, and they had a wall full of the awards that they won and the high ratings on several websites, and handwritten compliments by some guests of how fantastic their food was. This was important for that restaurant. They wanted to be the best Persian restaurant in the Bay Area. So this was confirmation for them that they were doing a great job. This gave them pride. So this little work exposition. Another example, here's a example of the video that I made. I won't show you the video, you can look it up yourself on YouTube. But the video that I made is, of course, not made by just me, but by other people as well. The animations were done by Martin and George, fantastic animators. The voiceover by Paul in New York. And I did the writing and I did the catering. Now, I show you this because we call these movie credits, right? You know how movie credits work. You usually see them at the end of a movie. We credit people for the contributions to a project. That is important. That gives them literally credit, that gives them a proof of an accomplishment. I find this to be more and more important than job titles and career ladders. One question that I frequently get is how do we offer people careers in organizations? Because people ask, what can I become after being a software developer? Can I become lead developer, perhaps, or team leader, or development manager, and maybe vice president of development? They want to know this career path. And I've always resisted this urge to draw the map, like this is where you could end up. Because it means that organizations become less flexible if you do this, these hierarchical career ladders. What can I become after being a writer? Lead writer? Writer manager? Vice president of writing? That's silly, makes no sense. Right? My sense of progress is selling more books. Right? Write more interesting books with more readers. Get more invitations, but the role is always the same for every new project. That will be writer or author. So I'm credited for hopefully bigger projects. In the movie industry, it's the same thing. What can actress Julianne Moore become after being an actress? Is that lead actress, actress manager, vice president of acting? That's silly, makes no sense. No, she's an actress. She gets more money for bigger roles. She gets invited to participate or play more impressive roles in bigger productions. And of course, her fee goes up over time. That's how you make a career. Maybe some actors and actresses switch to being a director. That's fine. That's a new job. You basically start from scratch. You have to prove yourself again. Plenty of actors suck at being directors. So basically they start at the bottom of another ladder. So I believe crediting people is important. And we all know that job titles don't mean much anymore. Like, I have a mailing list where people subscribe to get chapters of my books. And I ask people for a while what is how they call themselves, what is their job title. And I think half of the people are CEO of something. That's the simplest title that you can get. Just register some kind of name at the Chamber of Commerce and ta-da, you're CEO. Easy. And there are many seniors among the people on my mailing list. No juniors, by the way. Nobody in the world is a junior in anything. But seniors everywhere. Right? So there's a lot of job title inflation, as I see. And recruiters know this too. They know that checking people's job titles is worth almost nothing. More important is to see what projects have they actually contributed to. Where is the proof that they did something for a certain product or service? So make sure that you credit people. I call it project credits, because that's what they need to feel that they make a sense of progress. Okay, here's a bit of transparency. Here's my book expenses. So the editing of my book cost me 4,000 euros. I had 3 editors. I'm weird, I admit. Linda's travels were obviously very expensive, so the design was a bit more expensive than the editing. Then, yes, I have a website and a video trailer. Copywriting cost me some money. I have some free postcards that I give away. And then labor, well, that's like a big estimate, but it cost me 1,000 hours of writing. 70 euros would be a reasonable fee in Western Europe for a writer. So more or less 100K. That is the investment in a book like this. That's not Not cheap, I can tell you. Costs a lot of money. And what do I earn with it? Almost nothing. I give it away for free. My God, I'm such an idiot. The text edition, design edition, anyone can download it. So sometimes people think that authors travel around the world on book tours to convince people to sell their books, but basically it's the other way around. Right? We sell books in order so that we can get invitations, because that's where the money finally flows in. Because royalties, it earns you almost nothing. It is a very bad business model, I can tell you. Now, I share this with you because I believe in transparency. I believe in openness, and people learn from such numbers. They ask me good questions about these things, and I'm happy to share. The same applies to organizations, compensation in organizations. I see more and more transparency in the way we pay people. It doesn't mean that we publish individual salaries of individual people on the internet. I mean, that is illegal in most countries. But if I ask one thing of people across the world, what is it they want out of compensation? What is the one requirement that they have about payment? Then usually 9 out of 10 times they say it needs to be fair. 1 out of 10 times they say it needs to be more. Right? But usually they say it needs to be fair. They have a feeling that there should be fairness in the way we arrive at compensation. And usually everything is a secret. I've read suggestions from HR professionals on the internet saying things like, always make sure that you keep all your salary negotiations and all that stuff, that you keep it confidential. The only reason can be that somebody in the organization is being screwed and you don't want anyone else to find out. There's no other reason I can think of, right? That things are not fair. If it would be fair, it could be open. So more and more organizations in the world are moving towards fairness and transparency. I'll give you one example. Buffer, a social media company in New York, recently, in December last year, published their salary formula. They basically have a formula that says, this is your cost of living, this is your job title, this is your level, senior or junior, whatever. That means, blah, 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 calculate, this is what you're going to earn. That's it. No negotiation, nothing. You can calculate how much you're going to earn. And they published it. And after they published it on the blog post, they got 3 times as many job applicants for that company. And it's not because they pay so much, they don't, because they're a startup. But it was this perceived fairness that attracted people to that company. Great, I don't have to negotiate about salaries, and things are not a secret. Right? And I don't find out after a year that I have been paid much less than my fellow team member. So this fairness is important to people. I have other examples of why I believe in fairness. A couple of months ago, an article was published in Harvard Business Review that explained one of the many reasons why women on average get paid less than men in most countries around the world. One of the reasons is, the article said, because women are very good at negotiating for other people. Men are good at negotiating for themselves. So we all have negotiation skills, only women negotiate for families, for their communities, and for social groups. And men negotiate for themselves. Right? So the traditional salary system is created by men, and it favors people who can negotiate for themselves. That happen to be men. Right? And then women are expected to play a man's game in a man's world. That's quite an interesting problem. You get rid of that if you simply switch to a salary formula. No negotiation. Let's not do that anymore. This is the formula, this is how we calculate it. Fascinating stuff. So I've been doing workshops all over the world, including a workshop based on no book. And I try to practice what I preach. I try to be as as agile as I can, being the manager slash facilitator of the workshops. And one thing that I tried, for example, was to have people organize or select venues by themselves. So I simply announced, I will be in Berlin on that date. If you want to have a workshop with me, register here, and then hopefully some of you will find a venue and food, etc., and make suggestions for great places, because I'm not from Berlin, so I don't know. Sometimes it worked, most of the times it didn't. That was interesting. People didn't self-organize. So in Brussels, for example, I remember quite well, I had 12 people signed up, and 2 weeks before the date, we still did not have a room. And I became very, very nervous as the manager. Oh my God, when are they finally going to do something? And we kept pushing them and nudging them, and nothing was happening. Everyone thought, oh, well, I think he is going to do it. No, I think she is going to do it. And everyone was waiting for each other to solve this issue of the venue. So it was not working. Maybe some managers recognize this, that you want a team to be self-organizing and you're waiting and nothing is happening. Everyone is waiting for each other. They all hope that somebody else does it. The opposite problem can also be the case. Sometimes they self-organize too much. Like the workshop in Berlin, great people that I met there. But one thing that I noticed was somebody announced that my workshop would take place at a certain company that I had never heard of before, in a location I had never heard of before. And I saw that on Twitter, and I thought, maybe you want to ask me first before you announce this to the whole world, because it's my workshop. So of course I appreciated the enthusiasm of the people, but they went one step too far with self-organization. The venue should be at least verified or validated with a facilitator, because it's my workshop. I need to check whether there's enough wall space and stuff like that, round tables. So ultimately it was a great workshop that we had there. But I realized I have to be more clear in my boundaries of self-organization. That is why I use delegation boards, and that is why I suggest agile coaches use delegation boards. Basically, you show with a simple board several key decision areas, and at what level you expect people to self-organize, or how far you delegate. Like vacation days. What is the rule for vacation days? Do you need to ask permission of the manager if you want to go on vacation? That will be level 2 or level 3. Or can you decide for yourself and just notify your manager afterwards? Then it could be level 5, 6, or maybe even 7. So there are different levels of self-organization. It could be anything as long as you make it clear, and that is usually the problem, that things are not clear. Everyone is waiting for each other. I have agile coaches report to me that suddenly problems were solved by simply drawing the grid, listing the key decision areas, making tick marks, and then everyone said, oh, okay, I'm expected to do that. All right. Well, I told you that 10 times over email. Oh, well, I forgot. Okay, well, now we have a delegation board. So now we radiate to everyone what the expectations are. Probably many of you do not know that the word management is actually from Italian word maneggiare, which means taking care of horses. That's nice, isn't it? Management means taking care of a horse. Now, I don't mean that people are horses. That is not my intention here. I mean, you can see the organization as a living thing, like a horse, and you're managing the horse. It's not a machine. No, it's a living creature. And I'm not going to and a fully self-organizing team, a fully self-organizing company, that would be a wild horse. It can do anything it wants. Now, I am not going to sit on a wild horse and then slap its ass and say, yeehaw, and then hope and pray that it runs in the right direction. That is not the proper way to manage a horse. The horse needs to know where is the fence and what are the boundaries. You need the reins and the spurs in order to have the horse do useful stuff. But you have to treat it well and love it at the same time, or else it will kick you in the face. That's what horses can do. Right? Same with organizations. So a delegation board is like drawing the fence. I have a couple more suggestions. Anyone can introduce these. As I said before, anyone can make these first steps. With delegation board, I've seen teams simply drawing the delegation board and asking the manager, can you come over here and validate that our assumptions are correct of our key decision areas, and it invites a conversation. With OKRs, it's the same thing. This is Google's solution to the problem that everyone asks, that is, how do we measure stuff? One of the questions that I get most is around the world is, how do we measure the performance of teams? Jurgen, we have agile teams. How can we measure their performance? Is what they always ask me. And then I ask them, how do you measure your own performance? And then they look at me with big eyes and they say, oh my God, no, my job is too complex, Jurgen. I cannot measure myself with a few simple metrics. Are you kidding? But I want to know how to measure them. Well, that's a bit silly. If you cannot explain how you measure yourself, then why do you assume that you can measure somebody else who is also doing complex work? So I came across OKRs as a great solution to this issue. Basically, it forces everyone to measure themselves. This is more or less the process that they have at Google, but they have started copying this process at LinkedIn, Spotify, many modern innovative companies. They have a cycle of 3 months, and every 3 months people create objectives. Like, we want to launch an awesome product by the end of the quarter. Or we want to significantly improve readership of the website. Or in my case, I made a private OKR at the end of June. Said, I want to be a healthy runner. I just started running. So I said, I want to be a healthy runner on October the 1st, in 3 months. But how do you measure healthy? How do you measure more readers? How do you measure awesome product? Those things are not measurable. So you have to make it measurable with a couple of metrics. Not just one, at least 3. 3 or 4, that would be good. So I defined healthy runner as, well, somebody who's healthy should be able to run 10 kilometers per day. Maybe 5 times even. And the average running time should be an hour, maybe less. And I should not have any injuries. If I'm able to do that, I would be healthy. I would consider myself a healthy runner. Same with OKRs in companies. You can convert those objectives to individual key results. And then what you do is you can measure every week, of course. You can see your progress. And at the end of 3 months, you evaluate yourself. You simply give yourself a score for each key result, between 0 and 100%. So for example, right now I'm running 4 times per week. I still do not dare to go to 5 times. I think that would be stretching it, so I'm at 4 times. If I'm still at 4 times per week on October 1st, well, I would say that I score 80% on that one. Still good enough. Still good enough. And no injuries. Well, if I don't feel any pain, I score 100%. If my left leg is slightly feels uncomfortable or something, okay, maybe 75% or something. So it's a quick self-assessment, should not take more than a minute. They say, grade yourself, how did you do, and then calculate the average. And then the idea is try to end up between 60–70%. Why? Because at Google they say, if you achieve all your key results at 100%, it was probably too easy. You didn't make it hard enough. Next time, aim higher. Right? You probably didn't learn a lot either. If you end up too low, like below 50, 40, 30%, I have another OKR, I'm not showing it to you, but I'm going to fail spectacularly with that one, I'm quite sure. Then that is a great learning opportunity. Nobody will be punished, but use it to learn how to set a better goal next time. And everyone does this, and everyone is all made transparent. Everyone can look up each other's OKRs. Larry Page, Sergey Brin, they have OKRs. It's in the system. Everyone can look them up. And all employees have their own OKRs. So everyone is measuring themselves. Isn't that what professional athletes do as well? they try to be better at being athletes, right? And everyone is sharing metrics and responding to each other, giving each other advice, but nobody is setting a target for another athlete, another person. You set targets for yourself and try to make them and be fair and honest about it. Oh, by the way, they do not directly correlate to salary increase or bonus or whatever. Obviously, what do you expect? If you say, well, if you achieve your OKR at 80% or something 4 times in a row, you get a bonus, that would be stupid. Everyone would be lowering their objectives to make it easy to achieve them. That's not the point. So they don't do that. Of course, they will discuss your progress. The information in the system will be input for the salary discussion probably at the end of the year, but there's no straight correlation. Maybe a person who failed 4 times gets a higher salary increase because he learned most if he's now doing better. That's possible. I describe such ideas in the metrics ecosystem chapter because I believe in non-hierarchical measurement frameworks. Every time I come across measurement frameworks, they are hierarchical. It all starts at the top, and then the goals trickle down until everyone knows how to be aligned with the purpose of the CEO. That is 2.0 thinking, I say, management 2.0. Well meant, but you still don't understand that you're working with a complex system. At Google, they do it in another way. Yes, there are goals at the top, but they say 60% of the objectives actually start at the bottom. Everyone decides, this is what I want to do the next quarter. And then they decide, how does that match with what they try to do at the top? And then this iterates a little bit and we come to an agreement. It goes back and forth, both bottom up and top down, and they meet each other in the middle. Much more respectful approach, I think. All right, now it's hugging time. I told you about salaries. That is the monthly compensation. I believe in transparency and openness and salary formulas. But then we still have another problem to solve, and that is the bonus system. At some companies, they have bonus systems at the end of the year where the managers pick people who get a bit of extra money. Sometimes it's a lot of extra money. And this involves, obviously, a lot of political wheeling and dealing and ass-kissing, etc., etc. That is the traditional approach. 80% of people say, this doesn't work that much. It doesn't really improve performance. Nobody has ever proven that this improves performance of the work. Plenty of evidence to say the opposite, in fact. And it demotivates a lot of people. I came across a practice that I think is much more fun. They apply this at IGN, International Games Network, Linden Labs. Just last week I read they also have it at Zappos and Shopify.com. All interesting, innovative companies. Basically, they distribute the bonus money across everyone. Everyone gets an equal share, everyone the same amount, but on one condition. You cannot keep it for yourself. You have to give it to others. You cannot give the bonus to yourself. So basically, the decision who gets how much is delegated to the wisdom of the crowd. And then it is still a popularity contest, but you have to convince your colleagues, all of them, instead of just one boss, that you did a good job. That is much harder, I can tell you. So anything can happen. Like I could give half of my bonus money to you because you helped me out last month when I was feeling depressed because he killed my Tamagotchi and I hate you for that. So I give you 50% of my bonus money. Thank you. I'm still here thanks to you because saved the company a lot of money that I didn't quit my job, and I split the rest of the money equally among everyone, except you, of course. I can do that. It's my little portion of the bonus money. But then you have your own reasons and you have your own arguments of how to distribute the money. And you can do this once per year, but actually it's much safer to do this in small iterations. I do this with my team every month. And I know other companies that have a monthly iteration of a small number of credits. We don't call it money, we have credits. We call them hugs. We like hugs. We hug each other for the things that we did. And you know what the effect is? We communicate better. Because we want people to notice that this is what we did. Hopefully they credit us at the end of the year, or at the end of the month, I mean. And we pay better attention to what others are doing. We make notes like, this is worth crediting. I'm so happy that she did that for me. So I'll remember that when it's hugging time at the end of the month. And then we collect credits. And at some points, the credits can be converted to bonuses. That's what the managers decide, of course, when the bonus money is available to be divided up among everyone. But no manager is involved in deciding who gets how much, because managers don't know. There's no performance system in the world that can measure helping out a person who is feeling depressed. How do you measure something like that? Only human brains can measure that. So, plenty of companies where they experiment with these kinds of merit money systems. This is a quote by Lisette, one of my team members. She said, I didn't like the idea at first. She hated it. But now she likes it because we complement each other. We rate each other on different aspects of our work, and that is very, very useful. Merit money is the name that I give. Different companies have different names for it, but all basically the same concept. And here's the last idea, last thing that you can try next week. Oh, by the way, somebody in the workshop yesterday said, but I don't have the power to actually distribute money with merit money. Okay, fair enough. But at least you can start with a crediting system without any money involved that is already beneficial, right? To use credits or hugs or points or whatever you use to credit each other once per month. And once this is working, maybe you can go to the managers and say, we have a great performance measurement system. Maybe you want to use this to connect it somehow for a small portion of bonus money or something. This grid, this diagram can also be used by anyone. In the middle, it shows that we run experiments in order to learn. Learning is optimal when we run experiments. That's the idea of running an experiment, right? That you learn. On this side are the good practices that we repeat. We already know that good practices work, so they usually are successful. Mistakes usually lead to failure. That is why we shouldn't make them. So sometimes I hear people say, we should celebrate failure. Well, that makes no sense. If you celebrate failure, you celebrate the whole bottom part of the diagram. Why would you do that? I would never celebrate the red part, people failing because they made a stupid mistake. We should celebrate learning. So I call this a celebration grid, because it emphasizes that we should celebrate learning and maybe also celebrate good practices. So for example, in my workshops nowadays, I don't use projectors anymore. That was an experiment, but now it is validated as a good practice because people seem to like it. Venue selection by the participants, well, that was an experiment and it failed. So I will not repeat that again. It goes over here. Several other things, visualization with lots of illustrations. I know that already know that works. And homework, well, in Krakow, that wasn't a problem. Homework usually works, except in Krakow, Poland, apparently, where 8 out of 10 did not do their homework. But yesterday here in Warsaw, they said, well, that's a Krakow thing. So that's something that is only applies to Krakow. I don't know if it's true, but I'll just give them the benefit of the doubt. So this is a great reflection tool, a great retrospective tool. You can use it at the end of a sprint in Scrum or at the end of a workshop day and discuss what are the good things that we did that we should do more often. What are the stupid mistakes that we should not repeat again? And what are the experiments that we could be running next time? That is very useful to know. Great visualization tool. I describe it in the chapter Yay Questions, which has an image of a bell because I introduced a bell in my company a couple of years ago. It was an idea that I offered to the CEO. I said, every now and then we should celebrate something. Celebrate new products or released or big customers acquired. So we put up a ship's bell, and every time the bell rang, people got together in the big open office space, made a huge fucking noise in the space of 100 people. We got together, everyone knew there would be cookies or cake or something like that. And the person who rang the bell would say why we celebrated something. And the last time I heard the bell was when the CEO announced that I had quit my job. I'm not kidding. That's actually true. So all this stuff can be started, initiated by anyone. These are all simple practices. You can make first steps in the direction next week, whether it's delegation board or a work exposition or project credits or putting up a bell to celebrate something, using a celebration grid. Everyone is managing stuff. We're all responsible for management in our organization. And if you want to know more, I suggest you simply go to this URL, m30.me/free, and you can download the whole book for free. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the day. And I'll be around for any further questions.